Alright, today we're gonna make a tier list. I hate these like scripted intro. My brain is not working. Okay, now Tomo is distracting me. No one likes your YouTube viewers? I do. I like my YouTube viewers. Also, they're way nicer than you. On Twitch, by the way. Anyways, we're gonna do a tier list today, going into which hero is the easiest to pick up versus the hardest. So, if you're a new player and you're curious or you just want to learn an easy character, I think this will give you a very easy way into the game. But also, if you want to learn a really hard character and you want to master or, you know, get like really, really good at a very specific character, this tier list should help you. So this is mostly a tier list for new players that get into the game or players that recently came back and want to pick up new heroes. And again, this is to how easy a character is to pick up and not how easy it is to master a character. Every character has like certain skill ceilings to master, right? So don't be offended if your hero is in the easy to learn tier list, because like some characters are just very simple to understand, right? And I think a very good example of like, I don't even want to call it free. We're gonna get rid of the free tier. So a very easy example of this, I think, is Abrams. He's very easy to get into, right? He's very tanky, so he's pretty forgiving for new players. You can tank quite some damage. And his abilities, not super complicated to learn, right? Like one of them is a passive, it's just gonna make you more tanky. I know there's a crosshair on the screen, I'll get rid of it. So yeah, Abrams, very easy to get into, right? You only need to worry about like basically two things, which is your charge and then buffering the melee after the charge to guarantee a heavy melee on level 2. And then the aura, if you're close to the enemy, it's very easy to understand, right? I want to be close on Abrams, and then I push my aura, I'm very tanky, right? He's not super aim intensive, you can play him like a melee character. So I would say he's definitely one of the easiest tanks, at least, to get into, and great for new players. Which, first controversial pick of the list, I guess. People will probably hate me for this. I don't think I'll put Bebop in mid. I don't think Bebop is necessarily super easy to get into. Because, yeah, he's tanky, and a lot of his abilities are not super hard to aim, right? Like Sticky Bomb, you literally walk up to them and you stick them. And Uppercut, you walk up to them and uppercut them. And Laser, right, ult, it's very big, you can't really miss it. But there's nuance to when you want to use your ult. And obviously Hook requires like a certain skill to learn, right? Like it's a projectile. I'm not saying it's a hard ability to hit, but it's harder than most abilities in the game to hit. So there's a certain like requirement. I'm not going to put him higher than mid because again, he's still very forgiving because he's very tanky and he can brawl quite well, right? Like if you're out of position, you can still get value. If you're melee range and someone catches you, you can still uppercut them, stick a bomb on them and do some damage, right? Billy, I think, is a deceptively hard character. A lot of people look at this guy and they go, oh, this guy does melees like Abrams. But this character is very, very hard to get into. He has a lot of nuances that people don't see directly from the character. So, for example, you don't want a heavy melee on this character, ever, right? And a lot of you in chat or watching this YouTube video will probably be like, why, right? The reason is his light melees are faster to hit and you move at the same speed while light meleeing, right? So this is a deceptive character in the sense that it's not actually a melee character, it's a gun character, where you just want to weave in heavy light melees while staying on the enemy. You basically shoot perma, and you only use your light melees to actually reload, right? And a lot of players play this character very aggressively, and then they get parried over and over because they melee so much, and then they die over and over. I do think it's a very hard hero to pick up. That being said, like, I think the skill ceiling of Billy is really high. I'll actually demote him to hard because I do think, like, the toolkit is somewhat easy to understand at the start, right? I think he's one of the hardest characters to master in the game, genuinely. Out of the new characters, he's probably the second hardest character to play after Mina. And I've played all 5 or 6 by now. So, yeah, not deceptively hard to get into, but he's very rewarding once you learn the game flow of him. Calico, I would also say middle. Her toolkit is pretty straightforward, right? But the Gloom Bombs, like the main way to play Calico right now is you want to hit the Gloom Bombs. And the Gloom Bombs are not trivial to hit, right? You can have tools like Arctic Blast where you freeze them to hit them. But her main damage burst comes basically from you leaping in, then hitting the Gloom Bombs on the enemy. And then the ult is also deceptively hard in the sense of if you use it too early, you will die because you have no escape, right? So if you use it, if you think you can burst someone, you go in, you ult, and they don't die, you can die very easily after. And overall, she does also require a lot of map knowledge in the sense of like the roaming capabilities of this character require you to have decent map knowledge. You want to know the positionings of like a lot of the boxes, right? And I'm not saying that's like a hard thing to learn, but in order to get good value out of the character, you need to play her pretty well. So I would rate her mid-tier. Another character, and I think this follows the trend, most new characters are pretty hard to learn. I won't put him hard, because right now Drifter is a bit overtuned still. He got nerfed multiple times, he still does really, really high damage, right? But the main thing about Drifter is you want to take isolated fights. And Deadlock right now is a team fighting game. A lot of people stack, and especially in lower ranks I noticed this, a lot of people stack as 4, 5, 6. So it's actually quite hard to find isolated targets on Drifter. And if you don't find isolated targets on Drifter, his damage, especially early, is pretty weak. Now, that being said, you can still go the AFK farm route, where you get a lot of money, and then, you know, once you have a decent amount of money, you come out of the jungle and you 1v6, right? That's like, he's still a hard carry character, where if he gets a lot of money, he can roll the entire lobby. But yeah, no, someone in chat says, I don't want Drifter to get nerfed. In the end, I want everything to be balanced, and I'm not like, I like Drifter, but he's not like one of my favorite characters, right? Like, I'll play him, but like, he's not one of my favorite characters, and I'm really trying to stay neutral here. Dynamo, I think, is also in the middle of the pack. Do we put Dynamo in easy? I think I will put Dynamo in easy to learn, because let's assume you're a new player. His abilities are not hard to understand, right? Uppercut is easy, self-healing is easy. The only like really high skill ceiling ability he has is the teleport, which can, you know, if you do it well, you can save your teammates from certain abilities, right? So he like the better you get, he has a high skill ceiling, but on a base level, if you first get into the game, it's pretty simple, right? Like you walk in, you black hole the enemy team, right? Like, yeah, so I'll rate Dynamo easy. Great Talon, I think, is he very hard to pick up? Or is he hard to pick up? I think there's some characters that are harder than Great Talon. I will say Great Talon is pretty hard to pick up because it's a very different playstyle than other characters. He's very squishy, in my opinion. Well, he is very squishy. And if you're new, you might fall into this trap of where you play like the same range as other characters and you die very easily, right? You need to be very aware of your positioning, right? So you need to be still in the fight and still be able to hit your arrows, but you're not like right in the fray. And if you end up in the front lines because you're a bit out of position, you will die very easily on this character. So I do think he's a harder hero to get into. And the skill shots are not necessarily super hard to land, but like they require some base practice too of the arrows, in my opinion. And Owl is not the easiest thing to control either, right? It requires some brain to know when to use Owl and who to use it on. Okay, Haze is very easy to pick up. If you come from a shooter background and you played like Overwatch or Apex before, and this is your first MOBA, I always recommend Haze as your first character, because at baseline, the more you hit your bullets, the more damage this character will do. It's a medium range bullet aim character, right? And the only thing you really have to worry about is hitting your sleep dart, and obviously the ult you don't have to aim. And I will rename the Close Your Eyes and Win, because the easiest characters to get into are not necessarily like you still have to play the game. So I'll do this very easy, and I'll actually demote Haze to very easy. I think this is the easiest character to learn if you come from a shooter background. For sure. Holiday is super hard to pick up. You need very good aim. It's like if you played Overwatch, it's like a Cassidy aim style where you get a lot of value from hitting headshots, and the fire rate is very slow in lane, and all her abilities are not trivial. It will take you quite a lot of practice to hit barrels, and then it will take you quite a lot of practice to get the hang of jump pads, and then it will take you quite a lot of practice to combine those two, right? And use jump pads and barrels effectively together, use jump pads to get out. The ult is not super hard to hit, but it's still a skill shot. Yeah, I think this is one of the hardest characters to learn as a new player, for sure. Infernus, I will say easy. It's not quite Haze level, right? You have a bit more things to worry about, like knowing when to ult, where to ult, and knowing when to flame dash. is not quite trivial. He has more active abilities than Haze in that sense. You know. So I will put him in easy tier. It's still an aim-based character. And but you will get value, right? If you have aim and you use like a gun build on Infernus, you will get value pretty easy if you get in. No, I don't think Infernus is as easy to get into as Haze. I remember when I first started playing Deadlock, I was having struggles with Infernus when I was very new, whereas Haze was really easy. It is like you need a bit more game knowledge to know when to use your spells on Infernus. Whereas on Haze, it's pretty simple. Like you usually use the sleep dart to start the fight if you're a new player, right? And then you just shoot and press 4 whenever, basically. Same for the Invis, right? Like I know later down the line, if you max Invis, you can dodge stuff with Invis, but you will be fine. I'm in Infernus 6 and I started playing Haze more because I have her on white and sometimes I'm forced on her. I just press Invis, walk around the map until I see someone, and then I press sleep dart. If I have ult, I ult, and if I don't, I shoot them, right? Like it's a very easy game flow. Okay. Ivy, I would say is a hard character to get into. Simply because her abilities, again, are not trivial, right? Like Katsu Bomb is probably the simplest, where you just put it on like a wave and new creeps, right? But it's not quite trivial to know when to proc your active healing that you can connect with your teammates, right? And it's not quite trivial if you want to use your ult to get in and hit like a big ult and silence everyone, or if you want to use it, you know, to get out in a fight. Like let's say you push a walker, you save your ult to like escape, right? So there's a lot of choices you have to make on Ivy in that sense. So I'll rate her hard to get into. Kelvin. Is Kelvin very easy? I think Kelvin is... Do I put it like... Kelvin is like close, right? Because I do think it requires a bit more brain than Haze in the sense of like, he has more actives, but the actives are really easy to use, right? Like the Ice Beam you can't miss. If you're close to the enemy, you shoot it and they freeze. And the ult, while you can use it really well to like dodge a Lash ult, for example, on a very basic level, if you first get into the game, you know, if you're low and you're fighting an enemy, you press it and then it's a 1v1 and you will most likely win because the ult heals you for so much. Snowball is not hard to hit and you can use your Ice Path to escape pretty easily. It's not super hard to control. And his gun does a lot of damage too, by the way. And he's very tanky, right? So he really doesn't get punished for a lot of mistakes in that sense, especially lower rank or like new players. Lady Geist, I'll give her low mid tier. Because like on base level, Lady Geist is like actually very forgiving. The thing is, you can have very bad aim on Geist on low rank and still get a lot of value. Because if you use your Life Suck, it's an auto aim ability. As long as you stay in line of sight, it will heal you and damage the enemy. And if you dash around a bit, it's gonna be like, it's way harder for the enemy to kill you because they have to like keep the aim up on you, or they have to like avoid line of sight. And then if you're low, right, you can hide behind a corner and press 4. So the more I think about it, I almost want to put like Geist pretty easy to get into, right? I think I could play, I don't have a lot of games on Geist. I think I could play Geist right now. I'd probably do okay. Simply because most of, like, one is a spam ability, Malice. The other one is an auto aim ability. Life Swap is pretty simple to understand. And once you level up the Spirit Bomb, you have certain items. It's also very easy to hit the AoE nuke. Lash, do we put Lash in hard? I do think I want to put Lash in hard. Because I can tell you, for personal experience, if you don't have good movement on Lash, you will not do a lot. I want to put Lash in hard to learn as a new player. Because it's not like the simplest kit. There's rollouts you can do to do more damage with the slam. Right? If you have good movement, the higher you go, the more damage you will do with the slam. The escape routes, you can escape very well with him if you play him correctly in terms of movement. And his ult is not super trivial, right? Like a lot of things can cancel Lash ult. So I want to say he's pretty hard to get into. And yeah, that's also true, Berg. You have to know the map well on Lash, for sure. Like, Lash, you know, if you fight inside, he does nothing. So you want to, like, know where to engage on the map. And most other characters on this list, funnily enough, so far, don't have that issue, right? Like, most of these characters do well outside and also inside in fights, right? Whereas Lash, you need to be positioned in a specific way. Same for Great Talon, by the way. McGinnis, very easy, I think. She's not the greatest right now. She's pretty weak, I want to say. But her abilities are very straightforward. If you play Torbjorn in Overwatch, right? It's kind of like Torbjorn. Like, you throw your turrets out. If you're low, you place the healing pad, you heal. And then you just hold mouse 1, right? I want to say it's a very simple kit. But I will still rate her a bit higher than Kelvin and Hayes. Because, like, it's probably going to be harder for you to get full value out of the character. The more I think about it, I'll put her in easy. Because, like, it's not quite trivial. Like, depending on the build you run, it's not super trivial. Like, if you play her as a support, you will have to think about more things. And if you play her as a Spirit Nuker, you need decent positioning with the ultimate. Okay, first or second, very hard to pick up. I still stand by this, and I will address some of the comments of my last video here too. Mina is the hardest character in the game, by far. And I will explain to you why, okay? On a base level, if you look at a kit, it sounds pretty simple, right? You have a melee ability that does a lot of damage, and then a teleport that lets you teleport out and dodge anything, and then the 3 is just you shoot the enemy and they take spirit damage, and the ult is you fly and it auto-aims, right? So, on paper, it sounds really easy, but it's the complete opposite. Because this character is a burst character, the way you want to play Mina is, you go in, you want to hit your bullets as fast as possible to proc the 3, and then you need to somehow get in melee range. While this character is the squishiest character in the game, right? So you want to somehow get in melee range, use your 1, which is pretty hard to hit, and then still get out with the teleport while you want to force the enemy to use abilities on you, right? A lot of the value of Mina is similar to Pocket, to where you want the enemy to force abilities on you and then dodge them frame perfect, ideally 2 abilities, where you want to dodge them with the teleport. And the teleport, right, because it has a 3-second downtime between the teleports, you have insane potential in where you can what you can actually do. Like, you can use one teleport to get in, nuke someone, and then get out if you have a plan, but you need a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, what's gonna happen is you teleport in, and then you don't have an escape route, and you die instantly. Like, this character is the squishiest character in the game. It's kind of Pocket on crack, is my point. Because Pocket does the same thing, right? Where he goes in, nukes you, and gets out. But Pocket, all the abilities you can't really miss, right? 3 abilities on Pocket are basically unmissable in the mid game because they're so big. The only thing you kind of want to set up and hit before is Barrage, and Barrage you can also hit pretty easily if you set it up with something like Majestic Leap, right? So yeah, Mina is incredibly hard to learn, and it reflects on the win rates, because I think a well-played Mina is very strong, but especially in low rank, even in high rank, she has a very low win rate right now, and she's getting buffed and buffed, even though she's technically not weak. She's just very hard. Mirage, I think, is a pretty easy character to get into. Very straightforward. 1 ability is a passive, kind of like Haze, where the longer you shoot them, the more damage you do, right? And you want to stack up as long as possible. All you do on this character really is stay mid-range and shoot the enemy, and then you can use the tornado to finish them off, right? Or escape, and then the scarabs you just kind of throw out whenever you can. You can min-max the scarabs, but as long as you hit a scarab or 2 on an enemy in the scarab cast window, you'll get value. Yeah, the one thing about him that makes him a bit more complicated is that you can technically have infinite potential with the teleport, because he can teleport across the entire map. So you can split push and then join a fight. Give me a second, please. Yeah, Mirage, very simple to play, other than the ultimate. Okay, Monkrill is Monkrill easier than Haze? Yeah, I think Monkrill is probably the easiest character in the game. Because you can't die, right? As long as you spam your 1 whenever it's up, you're scoring, you will heal. You can spam it on creeps, you can spam it in teamfights on enemies. Your 4 is literally just walking up to someone and you don't have to do anything, right? Your Burrow, you press it if you want to get out, and you're out because you take no damage in Burrow. And your Sandblast, if multiple people are shooting you, you Sandblast them, they can't shoot you. And he's giga tanky. Right? It's just like, it is truly the easiest character in the game to learn. For me personally, it's pretty boring. Some people might like the tank playstyle. Super easy hero to get into. If you are like a tank player in another game, try out Monkrill. Paige, I think, is hard. Simply because right now, I think the main playstyle of her is supporting. And in order to get value out of your abilities, you need to know, like, you need to kind of predict where the enemy is gonna be. with the 1. The 3 is not super trivial to hit, but if you hit it, it gives insane value. And the ult has insane potential because it's like global, right? So you can do trick shots where you send your ult to another lane and win them like a fight. But it's a very long cooldown. She's deceptively, like, her toolkit seems simple, but like the abilities are pretty hard to hit. And plus she's a support, she won't carry the team by herself, right? You can sit behind your team and give them shields over and over, but if your teammates don't do any damage with the shields, then you're gonna feel useless also, right? So I'll rate her hard to pick up. Paradox. Is Paradox... I don't want to say Paradox is on the level of Holiday, in the sense of like how hard she is to play. She's very similar to Holiday, where she's an initiator, right? And she can swap to start a fight. But overall, her abilities are a bit easier. Like, if you're in a 1v1, it's pretty simple. Like, you put down wall, you put down the 1, right? You shoot your Carabine and you ult them and your combo is done and they will take a lot of damage. The 1 is not super hard to hit. Carabine, you need to aim, but it's a pretty forgiving hitbox and everything needs aim in this game to an extent, right? So I do think she has a very unique playstyle in that sense, but I think you can pick her up and do well, like pretty fast, even though she's like probably on the harder side of characters to pick up. I'd rate Pocket in hard to pick up because the toolkit is very unique and there is combos you can do. Like you can decide, do I satchel and then teleport out, right? Or do I teleport out and then satchel at the place where I want to burst them? And if you misuse your abilities, you die very easily because he's very squishy. But like once you learn the basis of his kit, he's gonna feel like he's gonna play himself, right? I think he's pretty, like he's easier to master than most characters in the game. And I know the Pocket players always think of themselves as like some geniuses, but he can live forever once you have your toolkit down, right? And he's not really in danger a lot of the time because again, you go in, right? You hit your barrage, you go in with Majestic Leap, you hit your barrage, you press 4, and then you satchel out. And that's all the value you need. All the way up to Eternus, all Pocket players do is they press 4, get out. And your job is done. If you hit multiple people in a team fight with Affliction, your job is done. Right? Yeah. But we're not talking about how easy it is to master a character here. Also, we're talking about how easy it is to learn the character if you're completely new to the character. Right? That's a very different... The list would look very different if we're talking about mastering characters. This is more so for players that haven't played those characters and want to get into the characters. 7 is very easy to understand. I'm not going to put him on Kelvin tier though, and Mon Krill, because he is squishy in lane. He's not the best laner in the game. Like, he's on the bottom of easy. But unlike Haze, I want to say... Like, maybe I'm biased here. I love 7, and I do think he's easy. Maybe I'm biased, but I do think there's a bit more thought to it than Haze, Mon Krill, and Kelvin, right? Like, yeah, you stun, and then you ball them, right? And Power Surge is a passive, basically, that you have always active, and if you're in danger, you press 4. But sometimes it's a bit more complex than that, and I'll rate him a bit harder to learn because he's weaker in lane. He's weaker in lane. He can die easily in lane, whereas Kelvin... And Mon Krill especially, you don't die in lane ever unless you really fuck up. And Haze, you know, you just shoot. Yeah. And now, if you play Ult 7, I agree, right? Like, it's dog shit easy, you just press 4. But Ult 7 is not super valuable anymore. It did get nerfed. Like, Power Surge 7 is by far better. Yeah, I think he's in the easy tier. Just like Infernus, like to learn. Shiv, do we put him in hard? Do I give Mihan an ego boost? I mean, he's harder to play than other tanks right now, I want to say. Yeah, I want to put him in lower hard tier. Because he's harder to play than other tanks, there is some tech you can do, like especially shift movement tech, where you use the right click to get around the map. The ult is very simple, right? If they're low, you press 4. And if you're in team fights in lower rank and you press dash through them, they die very easily. But like, the knives are not super trivial to hit, and ideally you want to like delay them and stack up the bleed on the enemy, right? And with the changes to Shiv, it's also kind of essential to use Bloodletting at the right time to negate the damage you took. So I'm gonna put him in hard tier. Sinclair is super hard to pick up. Probably second hardest character in the game, honestly. I do think if you're a new player or you never played Sinclair before, you know, your ult has infinite potential, but you need to know when to steal it, where to steal it, from who. And the only other way to play Sinclair right now, the slowing hex is a bit weaker. A lot of the time it can actually backfire, because if you slowing hex an enemy and they turn into a rabbit, the rabbit can run away very fast now. So sometimes you actually end up saving teammates. And I've had that with Sinclairs against me in Eternus, where they rabbit hex me, and because they turn me into a bunny, I get out, right? And the bolt, you want to have a long travel time to do more damage, right? And again, the 2, also very hard to use, because do you use it aggressively to teleport after the enemy, right? Do you keep it up to do more damage, or do you save it to escape? There's a lot of things you have to think about on Sinclair. So I'll put him in very hard here. Dorman? See, the thing with Dorman is he has infinite potential. So if we're saying like hard to master, he would be up here. But how hard really is he to get into? Because the bells are pretty easy to hit. The ult is, it's kind of like Moan Krill ult in a sense, right? Like, not quite as bad, because you can actually save a teammate, an enemy, accidentally. Like, I've had multiple Dorman ult me, and because he ulted me, my team was able to get to me and save me. Or I was low, and then I could heal in the Shadow Realm and actually come out with more HP than I was. So there is backfire potential on that, but the hitboxes on him are very big. And on the most simple basic level, you place your TP to escape, and the escape ability is very strong on the teleports, obviously, right? So you place it backwards, and if someone is diving you, you jump into the teleport, close it right behind you, and you're fine. So you can do that. So I want to say, yeah, I mean, I'll put him in hard, because like he has unique abilities, but I don't think he's like incredibly hard to learn. He's incredibly hard to master though. Victor is easy. I'm not gonna put him very easy, because there is some, I mean, obviously he's very strong right now. If you're watching, like, he's probably gonna get nerfed again by the time this video is up. But you can kill yourself with the 3 if you misplay, if you keep it active for too long. If you spam the 2s too early, you end up with no charges, and you actually can die. It's pretty easy to feed on the character, I want to say. But otherwise, his toolkit is very straightforward, right? The 1 is easy to hit, the 2 is a self-heal. Like, he's incredibly survivable still. So he's still like one of the easier characters in the game to get into for sure. Vindicta, I'm gonna put, and I hate Vindicta for the record, she's so broken, but I have to put her in hard to learn because she struggles. I'll put her mid. Because I was gonna say she struggles from the same issues Great Talon does, but it is easier to live on Vindicta. Because if Vindicta gets jumped, she can still stake you and fly away instantly. Whereas if I jump Great Talon, right, he doesn't have an instant, like, chain that can, like, stop you from chasing. Vindicta can do that, right? And the way you play Vindicta right now is you put down a massive AoE you can't miss, and then you put down another massive AoE you can't miss, and then you put down a crow you can't miss, and your job is done, right? Anything else, like the snipes at the end, or the damage, that's all you need to do. You just need to debuff the enemy and stay away from them. So, yeah. Yeah, she's middle to learn, for sure. Like, lower middle. Viscus, I think, very, very hard to pick up. Probably the hardest support character in the game to play. He has a lot of intricacies that other characters don't. There's movement tech with the ball. The ball is very hard to control. Cube has infinite potential. Do you save yourself? Do you save your teammate? When do you cast Cube, right? Puddle Punch. Where do you cast it? You can use Puddle Punch to escape with movement, right? You can use it aggressively. The only really straightforward ability is Splatter, and even that is like, you can amplify the damage if you hit it correctly, where it bounces multiple times. So I do want to say Viscus is a very hard character to pick up. Viper, I'm gonna put in mid. Simply because, as a new player, movement is not super trivial, I want to say. And Viper does need to be moving. And Viper has a few hard counters, like especially knock-ups, knockdowns, and stuns, where she dies really easily, right? As long as Viper slides, you can't really miss, right? She's not super aim intensive because her spread is so big. So as long as you slide and shoot, you're doing fine. But you have the potential to fuck up your ult, where you save an enemy, right? Because during the ult, they can't take damage from most things. So you have the potential to screw over your team on this character. Which is why I'm gonna rate her in middle, like okay to learn and not like easy to learn in that sense. Warden, easy. Not much to say about him. He's super tanky. He has the best ult in the game. And right now, if you play Warden, you want to play ult Warden. So all you have to do basically is you learn Majestic Leap movement tech, and then you jump in and ult when you have Lightning Scroll. And then they all die, and you don't even have to aim, right? Like, your ult does everything. It heals you, and it kills the enemy. It's like the best zoner and the best ult in the game. And yeah, very forgiving to start with too, right? Like Flask in lane, not hard to hit, right? He doesn't really die, he has a lot of base regen. I'm gonna put him in easy tier. Wraith, I'm gonna put... like, you might call me crazy for this, I almost want to put a hard to learn. Because Wraith is so inconsistent. This is my main character, you can call me biased, but the cards are harder to hit, or they're less consistent than most abilities in the game, genuinely. If you played Wraith, you know what I'm talking about. The TP is less consistent than most abilities, right? Like, even on Mina, I can't fuck up the 2. On Wraith, if you fuck up the 2, you're instantly dead. I'm saying Wraith is middle of the pack. Almost want to put her in hard, because I do think she's inconsistent. You can call me biased. This can be the hate take of the video. You can call me stupid in the comments. But like, I can tell you, if I have a low rank teammates, I would rather have them on these characters than Wraith. It's my take. You can disagree. Okay, Yamato. Hard. 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 Is he hard? He's lower hard. Sorry. Yeah, my brain is spent. I don't have thoughts on Yamato. She has a dent head. She's very strong in lane, right? But there is like... The 1 is easy to hit, but the 2 has movement tech behind it, right? Like the grapple. You can use it to cancel. You can slide past the enemy. You can decide if you want to melee instantly if you show up, right? And then, I mean, obviously ult is pretty simple to use, but somehow Yamato still fuck it up and don't use it in time, and then they die because of it, because they're too low HP. And the 3, also not aim intensive, but it can carry the fights. I'm gonna put a lower heart here. I'm pretty happy with this list. Again, just repeating that, if you just skip to this part of the video, right, and you're like, oh, this is not correct. This is how easy it is to get into, as if you never played the character before. It's not how hard the character is to master. If there's interest, I can do like a how hard it is to master, but I think most people are not mastering characters yet in the current state of the game, so I don't think it's as important right now. But this is not a how hard to master, it is how hard to just learn the character on a base level.